All right, welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how we doing?
Nah, that'd be better if the Bucks were winning.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? Literally, wouldn't we all? So in case you missed it, the Bucks lost again. It was Tuesday night, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
123 to 115. Really just did not play well throughout the entirety of that game. Perpetually down like 15 to 12 points. And, really just could not get into a rhythm. Really more of the same, I would say, for the most part. Just too many wide open shots for the Pacers from three. Their role players are stepping up. And, at this point, like, is it kind of fair to ask, is Indiana just overall the better team? Because I saw Gilbert Arenas talk about it on his podcast, where essentially he was like, Doc can't do his rotation. He can't do what he wants to do because Indiana is just younger and their role players are just better than ours. And that's really what this boils down to is, right now, who's Milwaukee relying on? Because you don't know who's going to have a good game. Like there's no consistency there. Right? Because sure, Giannis is going to get his. And, Bobby Portis chipped in 28 points, but then who else is contributing?
Mm-hmm.
And really what this boils down is really nobody, to be quite honest with you. Kyle Kuzma has been a no-show. Brook Lopez has looked his age. Kevin Porter Jr. didn't play well last game. Gary Trent Jr. a little off. AJ Green a little off. So it's just like, even throwing Taurean Prince. So it's like, where's Milwaukee? Like, in all honesty, where do they go from here? And I understand it's down 2-0 and there's no reason to panic, but in a sense there is, because Indiana, with Halliburton and Siakam and, Miles Turner and Nembhard, they just have a good young nucleus that can give an older team like Milwaukee fits. So what did you see in Milwaukee's performance against Indiana Tuesday night?
Again, it was one of those games where the Pacers came out super hot and the Bucks did not. I think the game started with Taurean Prince, Kyle Kuzma missing two layups. So that didn't start off great. So again, he continued his over streak. And again, it's really just the open shots. When you look at the stats, Bucks were 44 of 87. They were 44 of 90. 14 of 35 on three for the Bucks, 16 of 36 for three for the Pacers. So it's super close. They made 6 more free throws than us, but we shot the same. The stats are almost identical. They just made more of those than us, obviously, because they won. But it was such a close game where it's like it came down to free throws and a couple 3-pointers. So I think the real frustrating part, though, like you said, is the consistency. When you look at the Bucks starters, 6, 34, 12, 8, and 14. And then you look at the Pacers, it's 24, 16, 15, 17, 21. So you got that consistency from your starters and all on efficient shooting. 8 of 16, 5 of 9, 6 of 10, 6 of 10, 8 of 19. It's like, again, Halliburton, I can talk about for a lot of different things, but outside of Giannis and Bobby, like you said, no one really stepped up. And I feel like with the way that they were playing, it felt like it was just out of stagnant and nothing was happening. That second quarter or the first quarter, the Pacers started out super hot, was making literally every shot like they did in the first game. And then in the second quarter, they missed the first 9 of 11 shots and they were still up by 12 points. It's like the Bucks did absolutely nothing with a slump to start off the second quarter, which is where you build momentum. They still scored more points in the quarter than they did, but it was one of those things where, they'd score 3 points, but then they'd give it right back up. They'd score 2 points and they give up a 3. It's like it stayed 12 to 15 for so long. And then going into the half, they got it to 4 points, and then all of a sudden it was 8 at the end of the half, and then it was 17 points to start the third quarter. It's like there was no way of going on a run at all, and the Bucks are just stuck in purgatory of just being down 12 points. I felt like it they could have gone on a run, it felt like, but then they score a point and they're like, all right, they bring it back down to 12. And it's like, what was going on then? No, I just could not understand their point of play. And again, they got it back down to 2 at the end, and then you blink it, it's 8, and then they lose by 9 or by 8 points. It's like you just got it to 2, and and then the game is over because they give up a 3, another 3, and free throws, and it happens so fast when they would finally make a comeback. And I just nothing stuck out to me once again with this game. And obviously with Friday being their next game, it's you lose, there's no point of coming back. Like you got to win tomorrow, bring it to 2-1. I mean, you got to win the next two realistically. If you go down 3-1, I have no shot. If you 3-0, it's you gotta win both these home games and hope that you can go into Indiana and hopefully take game 3. But if they lose the next one, I have no hope, and I'm counting them out. I've already counted them out, but it'll be about tomorrow, and we'll see.
And Evan, wasn't I not saying before the playoffs, like when Damian Lillard was out and Giannis was putting up these like just amazing scoring performances, I was like, okay, all right, that's good in the regular season. Playoffs, it's like you can't do that. Playoffs, everybody has to step up, like everybody, and I legitimately mean everybody. Okay, like you need other contributions from other places. If you don't, you're not going to win. Okay, it doesn't like you're not. And with having the Pacers have like Nemhard, and with Miles Turner, and again we like Halbert hasn't even played well in this series, but Siakam's still a good player, and TJ McConnell's a pest, and you can't have one guy. This isn't like that's what makes what LeBron James did in 2007 so historic. Because he legitimately dragged a really bad team to the finals without anybody else contributing. Like, that's so hard to do, and it's actually nearly impossible to do. Giannis can't do it. Like Giannis is a talented enough player, but I'm not it is so unfair to ask you to be like, hey, Giannis, score 35 points to give us a chance to win. It's not possible. The Pacers just have too many good players. And as the word me and my friends used to use in high school, if Giannis has to go demigod or God mode in every game, you're not winning. You're not. And look, that's what I was concerned about are these role players good enough? Yeah, sure, Kevin Porter Jr., Kevin Porter Jr. is, he's been good. Been a solid pickup. Traded away Marjan Beauchamp, essentially for Kevin Porter Jr., and he's been good. I hope we re-sign him next year. But outside of that, it just feels like without Giannis on the floor, it feels like sometimes his offense feels like it's very stagnant and it's just stuck in quicksand. And which kind of also makes me wonder is Doc Rivers the right coach to lead this team moving forward? Because he was puffing his chest out like a week or two ago when people asked about those game sevens. Like how many 3-1 leads he's blown as a coach. And he said, well, I never got swept. Well, Doc, guess what? You might have to you might have to eat those words. Okay? Because right now this team looks old. It looks slow. And it looks like a few young players might actually help. Which is such a Bucks thing to be so far behind the trends. It is maddening. You need to have a youth movement. Young players help win championships. You're not going to win a championship with guys that are in their early 30s. And not everybody can be in their prime. Okay? Dame, Giannis, they held on to this 2021 championship core for so long that now they're actually far behind the rest of the league. And that's not a place you want to be. Because the pendulum either has to shift one way or the other. Either you lose a couple pieces and you kind of restock the cupboard, or you just re-sign everybody. The Bucks re-signed everybody. So then it just becomes like, well, are they optimizing Giannis' prime? And the answer is a definitive hell no, they're not. Because if they were, they would help Giannis like actually get some young talent in there. And they've drafted young talent. They don't keep it. Like Sam Merrill would help right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
The last pick of the draft.
Like DiVincenzo would help right now. Like even trying to think who else they've what young player they've like kind of drafted the last few years.
I mean, AJ Johnson looks good, obviously, because he's playing with no. There's nothing you can really do in Washington except do as much as you can.
Which makes it all the more which kind of makes it all the more maddening where it's like they didn't really try in the draft. They had like 2 draft picks. And they're like, yeah, no, we're just going to draft developmental pieces. And then we're just going to trade one of them after you. That made no sense to me. That honestly made no sense to me because there were actually young players that could help contribute right away. The problem is Doc Rivers is stuck playing these old ass veterans that are just not going to help win. And maybe he's just like looking back at his glory days with the Celtics where he won that one championship in the George Bush administration with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Rajon Rondo, KG, Kendrick Perkins. Maybe he's looking at those times with glory and be like, yeah, you can win a championship with the veterans. No, not really. Not really. Trust me. This is a youth movement. There's a lot of young players coming to the league. A lot of young players want to contribute, but like if you never give them that chance, like you don't think a young player would help more than Kyle Kuzma right now? He would. And honestly, I think it's completely disrespectful how they treated Chris Middleton out the door. Because Chris Middleton would help a whole hell lot more than Kyle Kuzma would. But you know what? Hey, I don't know who's making the decisions. I don't know if it's John Horst or is that idiot Jimmy Haslam. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what direction this franchise thinks it's headed, but it's not a good one. Okay? Hanging on to one championship team. And legitimately, when I say they re-signed everybody from that team the year after they won that championship, they re-signed every single last person. Even re-signed Serge Ibaka, which I didn't understand because he didn't even play much. So I'm just trying to understand where the direction that this franchise thinks it's headed. Because, because we've had to hold off, like Giannis isn't leaving. But right now, it's just, what are you leaving him with? Like, who are you leaving him with? Like, we've been shooting off like, ESPN has a bunch of idiots where it's to even bring up the fact Giannis could leave. But now it's like, if I were him, I would seriously consider it because it's like, what talent are you giving him? I mean, yeah, sure, you got Dame, but I mean, for God's sakes, how long are they going to hang on to Brook Lopez? So he can't walk anymore? Because that's basically what you're doing. I mean, for God's sakes, Brook Lopez doesn't make as big of an impact as he used to. I'm sorry, he doesn't. Good defender, but and then on the outside, like Jericho Sims has I feel like a higher upside than Brook Lopez does. Jericho Sims has actually played better, to be quite honest with you. So even Bobby Portis, it's just how long are they going to hang on to this damn core? Like, for God's sakes, Pat Connaughton's still on the team, and he doesn't even play. So, like, why are we keeping these same guys for the 2021 championship, and half of them don't even play? Like, I thought Thanasis was still on the team, to be quite honest with you, which actually threw me off. I honestly thought with him seeing him having his ass firmly planted on that bench, I thought Thanasis was still a member of the Bucks. So it's kind of surprised me that he wasn't. Like, I'm just being serious. It's just like, what are they holding on to? Like, this is they're holding on to this championship level with a grip so tight that with as tight as like Brandon Jennings hanging on to his first 2 years in the league. That's how deep they're hanging on to this championship level team. Like, what are we doing?
And it's one of those things where you have Andre Jackson Jr. sitting on the bench when, what did he do this year? Give a defensive spark. What have you not been able to do? Play defense. I think it's frustrating where it's like, even if they were to trade a bunch of guys or let some guys go and re-sign some younger guys, it could, again, set you back 2 to 3 seasons to, again, get back to this higher competitive level. So it's, again, like you're behind. I could argue re-signing some guys from the year that they won, but then if you don't do it the year after or make it as far as the Eastern Conference Finals, just start over. Pat Connaughton should have been gone after that 2022 season. Still hanging on. We're keeping the guys we should not have, and we traded the guys that we should have kept. All 3-point shooters who have all had, in my opinion, been successful since the trade. Dante, Grayson Allen, obviously he was on the championship team, but and then Sam Merrill as well. Those are 3 guys that we had, did well 3-point wise. Sam Merrill did when he was able to play, because why would they play him? But no, we're getting rid of the guys that we should have kept and keeping these guys where it's like, we don't need Pat Connaughton anymore. We need Andre Jackson Jr., but he's not playing. Brook Lopez, again, still hanging on. They should never have given him that re-contract. What was that, a year or 2 ago where he re-signed? But again, the draft picks, Tyler Smith. Again, I'm going to be a biased Marquette fan, but Tyler Kolek was the next pick in the draft. What is he? A fast, shifty, left-handed guard who has dominated the G League and has gotten minutes with the NBA and has showed potential. Where was his home court? Fiserv Forum. And we picked a guy who, again, is not going to play. If you develop Tyler Smith, amazing, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know. I'm just frustrated because now if we were to do it right now, we're setting ourselves back a few seasons, and there's really no point in trying to do that with the talent that we have.
I'm just afraid we're going to become the 76ers next season.
Yep.
Where it's like we have
good on paper.
Yeah, where it's like we're good on paper. It's like, you re-sign Paul, you sign Paul George, you get Max, you get NBA. It's like, oh my God, super team. And they're like in the lottery. That's what I'm afraid of, because right now we're like we're a 5th seed, and it feels like we're kind of sneaking into the postseason. But now it's like next year, where's this team at? No, everybody's another year older, and you got to keep trying to build around Giannis, and they're not doing a good job of it, because in all honesty, it's like I can understand why they made the Kuzma trade, because it's like, well, he was in Washington. He was a good player for when he was, in LA, but like really, he hasn't done anything. Kuzma was supposed to be our 3rd scorer, and he's been very non-existent this series. Like, he was 5 or 10 last game, and I believe it was like 11 or 12 points. Like, just did not not what we're expecting. Like, maybe in that 15 to 17 range. But
Yep.
and he's not, and those possessions where he got at Halliburton's just driving right past him. Like, so what value is Kyle Kuzma providing right now for the Bucks? And the answer is like a net 0. Again, I'm going to give Lillard a little bit of a pass because he is coming back for the first game in like 17 games, so it was like 4 of 13.
And still scored 14 points.
And again, he can do, like, he hit that big shot against the Pacers to cut the game to 2. Kind of near the end there, but still, like, Lillard, I think Lillard's going to come out with, I think with the home crowd, this team's going to come out with a lot more energy and, kind of feed off the home crowd, similar to what the Pacers did in game 1 and game 2. I'm just glad we don't have to hear that stupid countdown clock that they do every time Giannis shoots a free throw. It's like, all right, that wasn't even funny in 2021. It's still not funny now. So, and I also just don't like the Pacers in general. I just think they're a bunch of front runners. And people are asking, what are the man? Well, I mean, what I mean by that is they're really not going to do shit, but like they're like talking like a big game, but they're probably going to be out in like the second round or whatever. So it's like, and again, Halliburton took umbrage with being voted the most overrated player in the NBA. Well, it's true. He is. He very much is. And it's because it's the reason why they call him the most overrated player is because he'll make a shot and just talk a bunch of shit and then just miss the next 7. Tyrese Halliburton is very overrated. And again, he's in the NBA, so it's like, what? Who cares what an anonymous poll thinks? But like, still, it's like I personally think he's overrated. But he does leave. But he is a great passer, so I will give him that. But Yeah, outside of that, he's like extremely, extremely overrated. So I mean, look, just got to look forward to just got to move on to Friday. I probably won't be watching the game, because a little later, me and my older brother are going to be heading up to the draft. Um, and honestly, I'm kind of excited for it because, like, if I had to pick, if you put a gun to my head right now and asked what would I rather watch, a Bucks home playoff game which is down 2-0, or the NFL draft in your home state, I would probably say the NFL draft, like 100 times out of 100. So another piece of news, I saw Shams tweeted this beforehand. The Bucks and John Horst have agreed to a multi-year extension. What's your reaction to that?
Surprising, just because I know the last one that we recorded, I was kind of talking about that he needs to be, I think, talked about more with some of the decisions that they're making. So I'm not upset. He's a good GM. I just think that with this extension, they got to figure out trades and drafts more. I just feel like it's such a blur for what they do or how poorly executed I feel like their drafts are. And then who they end up trading for. There's some good ones here or there, but um, I'm fine with it. I feel like he's probably one of the better ones in the league, but he just, I think, has to just be more held accountable for some of the decisions he makes and how it's been executed. Again, Kyle Kuzma, firing a bunch of coaches and then ultimately picking Doc Rivers in the end, instead of just picking him from the start either way. And I'm fine with it. I'm not too thrilled, but I'm not like upset about it. Pretty middle ground.
Yeah, and again, it's for me. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, if they don't get out of the first round here, like you really got to have to question Doc Rivers' future.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think about it. He's like 61, 62 years old. He's an old school coach. And does that still mesh with what they want to do? Do they still believe in Doc Rivers enough? I know people are going to say, well, they got to pay him a lot. Okay, and the thing is, and here's the other thing you have to consider, Evan. If the Bucks fire Doc Rivers, they're actually going to be up there with the Phoenix Suns if you really think about it.
I was going to say that. Yep.
Yep.
They've gone through the same amount as we have.
Yep. Because
to the same coach.
Oh, 100%. Just firing their championship coach quickly. Talking about Mike Budenholzer, of course, and just kind of cycling through coaches. Like, think about it. If they fire Doc Rivers, like Giannis is gonna be like, this franchise is too unstable for me, and it doesn't feel like we're going in a good direction. I gotta bounce. And I would not blame him in the slightest because the one thing Milwaukee had with Giannis during his prime and during the later stages, they had stability, right? They had Coach Bud. Then they fired Coach Bud. It's like, all right, well, if you're gonna fire a coach, you gotta get the next one right. And they didn't really do that. I mean, Adrian Griffin was 31-13, but again, it was not with anybody playing any sort of defense. So then Doc Rivers is just kind of waiting in the wings because he served as like some sort of consultant to help Adrian Griffin with adjusting to being an NBA coach. And now all of a sudden it's like, you pulled Doc Rivers from the broadcast booth to now he's coaching your team. And, this team just feels like with him, it's just kind of stuck in quicksand. And you got to think with an older voice, you got to ask yourself, is his voice still resonating in the locker room? Are people getting tired of the excuses? Because, Doc Rivers, I call him the king excuse maker because, he'll always be, he's always the first to kind of pass the blame off on, others, or, he doesn't really take responsibility for some of the shit he's done. He did an interview a while back where somebody asked him about the bubble. About like, why'd you blow 3-1? Well, it was the bubble. Anything could happen. I mean, you were up 3-1. It's like, well, it was the bubble. Anything could happen. Or, he keeps trying to paint himself as like one of the greatest coaches of all time. I don't believe that. I'm just going to say it's just because you win a lot of games in the regular season, that doesn't I mean, it makes you a decent coach, but like it really matters what you do in the playoffs. Like that's what you like. That's honestly what your legacy is calculated by, right? Because with the Clippers, because I'm trying to think, I don't believe he ever made it to a Western Conference Finals.
No, that was the big thing with him in Los Angeles. Never did it. Blew a lot of 3-1 leads.
So he never made it to a Western Conference Finals. For the 76ers, he never made it to an Eastern Conference Finals. Took Boston Game 7 a couple years ago, and then he got fired a couple days after. And then, and now he's coaching the Bucks. So it's just like you got to be. So like if I'm the Bucks and they lose in this first round, I'd seriously consider like at this point in time, you got to seriously consider firing if they don't do it. And then you have to kind of live with the consequences of potentially being like the Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Because, except that the Phoenix Suns, they're probably going to trade Kevin Durant. And, if they could get out of Bradley Beal's contract, that would be great. But, they got to restock the cupboard. Okay. They have to get younger. They have to. You can't win with you cannot win with a veteran-led team anymore. You got to mix them. Okay. You got to mix them. Okay. You can't just, you cannot just, it can't just be like, you can't just have a bunch of old veterans just trying to win you a championship. It's not going to work. It will absolutely positively not work. So try to restock the cupboard, get some young talent, draft and develop, and actually draft and develop. Don't just trade them when you think something's better out there. Okay, actually draft and develop, and then we'll go from there. I think Giannis would want to stay if you can get some young players in there. All the good teams have them. Like Bucks should not be this far behind the trend. And it's crazy that they are. It's crazy. So, but yeah, my kind of reaction to the John Horst contract extension is, I mean, I'm not surprised because like who else is going to do that job? To be quite honest with you.
Yep, exactly.
Again, they, and again, I don't even know I honestly don't know who pushes for some of these moves. I don't know if it's ownership. I don't know if it's like I honestly positively cannot tell you who pushes for some of these moves. But who else is gonna do that job? And John Hope's getting that new extension. He's got to make some tough decisions. Namely like Middleton and not Middleton. I'm sorry, Kyle Kuzma and like who they gonna re-sign. So, but I don't want. But I know I'm talking like the series is over, which again they're down 2-0, and it's kind of hard to come back when you're in that big of a hole. But I mean, look, we'll honestly just have to see what happens on Friday night, and that'll be a good litmus test on if Milwaukee can claw its way back into the series. So, Evan, you got anything else?
And it can't be Bucks in 6 if you don't lose 2. I mean, they were down 2-0 in the finals. Let's see if it can happen. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but we'll see. All it takes is Friday.
Yep. So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in to this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you guys either this weekend or next week.